Well, Ben Gavir admitted Israel did, in fact, torture Greta Thunberg when she was in an Israeli prison. She had claimed that she had been tortured. People then said she was a liar. And now Ben Gavir, who's part of the Israeli government, came out and said, yep, we did it, and I'm proud of it. This is what Greta had to say when she came back.
And I could talk for a very, very long time about our mistreatment and abuses in our imprisonment, trust me. But that is not the story. What happened here was that Israel, while continuing to worsen and escalate their genocide and mass destruction with genocidal intent, attempting to erase an entire population, an entire nation in front of our very eyes.
I mean, you got to give it to Greta that she comes out of this Israeli prison. She'd been tortured. Now we know the Israelis admit to it to a degree. I mean, I guess torture is relative. But, you know, because you could be like, well, what kind of torture? Was she waterboarded? Was she shocked with an electric prod? Was she raped with an electric stick like some of the Palestinians? I mean, what was it? Okay, there's, I'm sure, varying degrees. But nonetheless, treated in a way that a prisoner in a Western democracy, a Western civilization, treated in a way that they should not be treating prisoners. She could have been talking about all of that. But the minute she got out, the only thing she talked about was the Palestinians and the plight of the Palestinians. Now she is coming out and saying, okay, I'll talk about the torture. And this is what she said. I was tortured, beaten, and starved by Israel. She says, they dragged me to the opposite side from where the others were sitting, and I had the flag around me the whole time. They hit and kicked me. She said that they claimed that she had to beg for water while being kept in 40 degrees Celsius heat, but said the guards laughed in front of her while holding water bottles before threatening to gas her. 40 degrees Celsius is like 100 degrees, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. During the nights, guards regularly came by and shook the bars, shining flashlights several times a night. So they were trying to do sleep deprivation, which is very dangerous. She said several times a night they came in and forced everyone to stand up. Another detainee reportedly told another embassy that they had seen her, Greta Thunberg, let me see here, that they had seen her being forced to hold flags while pictures were taken. So she was being forced to like wrap in the Israeli flag, hold Israeli flag. You know, they were trying to get these propaganda pictures. She wondered whether images of her had been distributed. They dragged little Greta, this is according to The Guardian now, they dragged little Greta Thunberg by her hair before our eyes, beat her, and forced her to kiss the Israeli flag. So this is what other detainees are saying, is that they really stuck it to Greta Thunberg because they were like, you're the face of all of this, and so we're going to drape you in the Israeli flag. We're going to do things to you. They dragged her by her hair. They beat her. They forced her to kiss the Israeli flag. They did everything imaginable to her as a warning to others. And this was from a Turkish activist who participated in the flotilla. Lorenzo D'Agostino, a journalist and another flotilla participant, said after returning to Istanbul that Thunberg was wrapped in an Israeli flag and paraded like a trophy, a scene described with disbelief and anger by those who witnessed it. They dragged little Greta by her hair before our eyes, beat her, and actually that's the same exact quote, sorry. Beat her and, had her kiss the Israeli flag and did all of that. They did everything imaginable to her. So she claimed, yeah, they did these things to me. Others saw them grabbing her by the hair, not giving her water, sleep deprivation. Of course, you could sit here and be like, torture could be worse, right? This isn't torture. This sounds like hazing. Either way, again, it is not the way that a Western democracy should behave itself. It's not the way that a Western democracy that claims to be for human rights and civility, this is not the way that one should behave. Let me just show you this also. When she got her suitcase back, it says, look at this, look at these pictures. The Israelis wrote all over it. They put Israeli stickers on her bag, whore, Greta. This is so completely unprofessional. Why behave this way? Could you imagine the scandal if prisoners in a U.S. prison came out with clothing and luggage that had all these types of slurs written all over them? This just goes to show the immaturity of Israel and the immaturity of Israelis. And when people have to behave this way, like what we've seen with setting up viewing spots to look at the genocide, to watch bombs dropped and celebrating that like it's something to watch, like a sporting event. When they do these types of hazing tactics to these to the prisoners that are there trying to just end the blockade, when they write on the suitcase, I mean, these are the antics of high school kids. This is like when you are so wrong and you're just such a bully and you don't have any other tactic in your arsenal. You don't have any defense for your behavior, so you just continue to be a bully. These are bullying tactics, like really awful high school kids that unfortunately are given nuclear weapons and they're using them against people and killing massive numbers of people, women and children. I mean, it's really totally and completely unprofessional behavior. And this is what Ben Gavir had to say about the whole thing. He said, yeah, we did it, essentially. He tweeted out this morning, he says, seeing this morning the claims in the world media about the conditions in which Greta Thunberg and activists were imprisoned, and it's important for me to say most clearly, I am proud of the fighters and prison service fighters who acted according to the policies that I and Commissioner Kobe Jacoby agreed on. I was there on their ships. I saw no aid nor humanitarian. I have seen one turno and an entire Karancha of people masquerading as human rights activists and actually came to support terrorism and celebrate us. I came to visit Katsat prison, and I was proud that we treat the activists as supporters of terrorism. Whoever supports terrorism is a terrorist and deserves the conditions of terrorists. If any of them thought he would come here and get a red carpet and trumpets, he was confused. They should understand the conditions in the prison of occupation and think twice before they approach Israel again. That's how it works. This was translated. But that is, so, I mean, just the fact that he says they should understand the conditions in the prison of occupation. I mean, that was kind of their point, right? I mean, to expose you. And they kind of did. And then for him to say, you know, you didn't have any humanitarian aid. A lot of people were saying that there's no humanitarian aid. You didn't have any humanitarian aid. It wasn't even really about the humanitarian aid. There was no way a flotilla, even one boat or 15 boats or 20 boats or 50 boats or 100 boats could bring enough aid for the Gazans. It's about breaking through an illegal blockade. That was the point. It's a protest to break the blockade, to attempt to break the blockade and to prove that you weren't going to allow the blockade to be broken, to prove that even with a ship with a small amount of humanitarian aid, you, Israel, were not going to let that through. That was the whole damn point. How did you miss it? You're sitting there thinking like we're all expecting these boats to feed millions of people in Gaza. No, that is not the point. The point was to show that even with a small, tiny amount of aid, you were not going to let even a tiny little bit amount of aid get into Israel, get into Gaza, that you were not going to let that happen. That is what the point was, to showcase you as a monster, to show that you just, even a simple boat with a simple amount of aid, you were not going to allow it through, that you were going to instead intervene. And really the best thing Israel should have done was just let the boats dock, let the boats distribute the aid and say, look, we're not trying to starve people. This is a dismal amount of aid, but, you know, we're not trying to starve people. And so now you've done your show, move on. But instead, they have to round them up. They have to take them to prison. They have to drag Greta by the hair. They have to make her kiss an Israeli flag and take pictures and laugh. They have to deny her water. They have to do all of these things in order to prove that they're a bunch of immature high schoolers that are genocidal with guns and bombs. I mean, that's all they're proving. All they're proving themselves to be is just a group of people with an ideology that is proven to be despicable to the vast majority of the world at this point. The world is no longer aligned with Israel. The world sees it for what it is in this the Zionist ideology that has taken over and that has completely infected the society. I mean, it's really, really awful. But of course, a lot of people, you know, when Greta said I'd been tortured, what did they say? They say, oh, you're a liar. Here's Noah Berg saying, Greta Thunberg, I was tortured, beaten, and starved in Israel. And she said, yeah, that didn't happen. Sorry. Well, actually, it did, because now Ben Gavir came out and said, yeah, we did. So at least he's admitting it, I guess, rather than just continuing to lie about it. I mean, just really awful. This is a story. This is from Israel Hayom saying that activists imprisoned after the Gaza-bound flotilla was intercepted on Yom Kippur, have accused Israeli authorities of serious mistreatment, with their lawyer preparing to submit a complaint to UN human rights bodies. So the attorney said, I intend to report these violations of human rights to the relevant UN authorities. And so now it looks like Israel may face more accusations against it. So there's going to be another ICC fight against Israel for mistreatment of prisoners. This is going to be the Swedes are now taking it up with Israel after their treatment of Greta and after many eyewitnesses. And even now Ben Gavir saying, yeah, we did it. So what? So this is what we're dealing with. I mean, it's just I think when we all read about the Holocaust, when we read about the treatment of the Nazis, whenever we've read about any really awful group, and I think one of the lessons our teachers, I hope, tried to teach us was, these were regular people, just like you and me, that did these heinous things. These were regular people. And then the question for many of us is, well, how do regular people do these types of things? How do they turn out this way? Like, what happens? And I think it's important for us to remember that we are all capable of this. We are all capable of becoming monsters. And we have to prevent and protect ourselves from becoming these monsters. And we have to recognize, and the whole point of learning about the Holocaust, at least I thought, the whole point of learning about it was to recognize what led to that way of thinking that caused people to be so heinous toward another group of people, to dehumanize them, to treat them like animals, to not care about human life. What were the steps and what were the ways of thinking that led them in that direction? And we didn't learn that lesson, or at least the Israelis certainly didn't. The Jews certainly didn't. They instead were abused and became the abuser, just like what happens all the time. And we also rarely ever protect the abused from becoming the abuser. We rarely talk about, okay, now you've been abused, you were molested or you were beaten as a kid. You have a high rate of growing up and becoming just like the person who harmed you. Nobody ever has those conversations. They're like, oh no, you just can't say that to somebody. Well, you have to say that to somebody because it's the truth. And we should have said this to the Jews a long time ago. Like, look, you might grow up and become genocidal. And it's our duty to protect you from that. We need to help you not become that way. But we didn't at all. And instead we've not only turned a blind eye to it, but we've allowed it. And beyond that, we've actually armed them and helped them do it. It's just really, all in all, a really unfortunate, terrible, terrible situation. And I just think it's one thing we should all remember is that we all are capable of becoming this awful. This is not specific to one group of people. This is something that is in all of us. And we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves from becoming the very thing that we say we hate. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.